What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? You are on the sidelines with the sideline guys. And today I'm joined once again by my brother in arms, the motherfucking podfather himself, my favorite guy to come across this show and bust balls with no pause. My guy, Derrick Myers. How you feeling? How you living, brother?
I'm doing well, bro. Doing well. Glad to be on here with you again, as always, bro.
Yes,
I
sir.
I don't I couldn't do this show with anyone else. I think that's a foregone conclusion. This show is the way it is right now because you are on here and making it happen. So I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, I tell my girlfriend all the time, I'm like, hey, you're my chosen life partner, right? But I got two domestic life partners, right? And one of them is Derek Myers. So we are locked in, baby. We got a lot of stuff that we get to
Yes,
talk about. We
sir.
have the pleasure to talk about, to have this, what we like to phrase as mental masturbation, all kinds of things going on
Wow.
with the
Yeah. Hey,
sideline
okay.
guys. So make sure you lock the fuck in so you never miss an opportunity for this level of banter. Make sure you follow the brand at OTS Media Co. on all social media platforms, OTS Media on YouTube. And if you feel like it, you can find me on TikTok as well as Instagram, as well as Twitter at Negron MMA, Instagram, Chris Negron underscore. Derek, why don't you let the people know where they could find you?
Yes, sir. You can follow me at Derrick_OTS. That's DERRICK. The black way to spell it.
Yes, sir. And we come back to you all today bearing very fruitful gifts. And the best part about it is we get to talk about the NBA, right? We're in full swing.
Yes,
We got
sir.
a lot of different storylines. We're almost at the All-Star break, right? So there's a lot of stuff we could look forward to, we could talk about here. But I'm most excited about our first segment on this show, Derek, because it's not often we get to come on here without too much of an agenda, right? Without too much of an idea of where it's going to go. But
Yeah.
that's the pleasure we have on this NBA edition of the Sideline Guys, because we are going to start with our NBA origin stories, right? We're going to
Ooh.
start with the true lore drops, right? And this is one of my favorite discussions to have with any sports fan because you can learn a lot about a man
Yeah,
from
yeah,
where
yeah.
his allegiances lie. So Derek, you have the floor, man. Why don't you let everybody know how a young man originally from the East Coast finds himself down south in Atlanta, Georgia, supporting the Boston Celtics?
Yeah, man. So actually, I came into loving basketball because all right, let me preface this.
Yeah,
I didn't
pause on that.
I didn't yeah. Yeah, major pause. I my dad, um the only sport he has ever loved is Formula One racing. So I never grew up in a house where basketball was a thing for my family. Like either side, it has never been a big thing. Except outside of my uncle. But I grew into liking basketball because of Space Jam. That's how I got introduced to Michael Jordan, right? Um, but then more I got into it, I didn't get to play any video games. God, probably until like I want to say around like 98, 99. Any basketball, games. So the first one I got, I don't even remember which one it was, but I didn't even get full video games at that point. It was my dad would just get me these demos. Like I'd get a couple of full video games, but I had demos, like the PlayStation Magazine, right? And it was a demo of one of the NBA lives. Um, you can only play as the Lakers versus whoever I guess was in the finals that year. So that was the matchup. Whoever the finals matchup was, that's who was on the demo. And I just remember just playing as the Lakers. And every time I saw Kobe, whenever I got to see the actual game, Kobe was always holding on the ball. He would never pass the ball. Now, as an adult, I understand now why he didn't pass the ball a lot back then, right? because there were a lot of guys that just weren't on the same page. But back then, it was like I found it so selfish, right? I found it weird that you're not utilizing your teammates. So that's what made me hate the Lakers. And I started looking and I'm like, who hates the Lakers as much as I do? And when I came across the Celtics, that was it. It was a marriage made in heaven, right? I hated the Lakers. The Celtics historically hate the Lakers. And I want to say this was like 2010. I mean, 2000, I'm sorry, 2001 season. I'm 10 years old, 10, 11 years old. This is where my origin began. And, I like that's back when the Celtics were struggling, right? Like those are the bad days, but you still love what you saw. Like I grew up just my favorite player was Paul Pierce. So I just became attracted to the Celtics, and we grew up without cable. Like I had basic cable for a good portion of my childhood. I had regular cable for a while, but my parents were like, "We're never home. There's no need to pay for all this."
Yeah.
So I would only get to see the playoffs. Like that was my time to watch basketball because it's on ABC.
Mhm.
And that's when I got to see, any game that I could watch at that point in time. But actually being able to grow up a little more and be able to go hang out with some friends and go watch games and get more exposed to the game like that. That was what made me a fan of the Celtics. I've always got a question like, how did you grew up in Atlanta? Why are you not a Hawks fan? Want nothing to do with them, quite honestly. The thing I loved about the Hawks was Al Horford. That was the only player I loved on the Hawks, like growing up. Like, of course, you have other players you're like, oh, this is you love watching Josh Smith dunk and stuff like that. Like those are obvious, but Al Horford to me was my favorite player because he was just fundamentally sound. He played the game the right way, and I loved it. So yeah, when we got that trade, like bro, I was at work when I found out that news, and I was jumping up and down. You couldn't tell me anything, bro. So yeah, that's my Celtics origin story.
Dude, I was not expecting that at all, right? That was left field for me, so I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Mine looks a little boring in comparison, but two things I gotta say before I start mine. The fact that you ended up on the best rivalry in sports is
Right.
fucking phenomenal. Like, right? That's hands down. There's no
Yeah.
other rivalry that exists like this between two opposite conference teams because they just see each other at the end that much.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's crazy. That's fucking awesome. And the second
Yeah.
one I forgot. So let's do it. I have a very convoluted NBA origin story. So I am like you, someone that doesn't really have a history of basketball fandom in my life. My dad was a Bulls fan growing up.
Mhm.
Before I was born, my parents lived in Chicago as well. So
Oh, okay.
they were there for the heyday, right? Of
Yeah.
when they were the Chicago Bulls. So it makes sense that they had that fandom. But um, I talk about how my dad is a Cowboys fan because he came back. Shout out. But he is a Cowboys fan. We saw more NFL in the house growing up than NBA.
Okay.
And we
Okay.
barely saw NFL.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I feel the same way as you, right? I wasn't a Bulls fan. And thankfully I dodged that bullet. But
Yeah.
yeah, it could have been real bad. But
Yeah.
my story is a little weird because, funny enough, being in New York City, all you hear about is the Knicks, right? Every
Mhm.
single year, no matter how good or how bad they were the year before, nah, this is our year, right? So
Yeah.
that was what I lived with my entire life, and all the time I would hear about, how good the Knicks look now, and all this stuff. So I knew even back then, like we can't be a Knicks fan. Like it's not gonna happen just because the level of delusion, right? There's a certain level of delusion that I look towards Mets fans as.
Yes,
Because
yes.
once again, that was my first fandom love was baseball. So to see the Mets delusion, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be a Knicks fan because that was the equivalent in my mind. Funny enough,
Yeah,
now you would look at the Knicks like the Yankees, and you look at
yeah,
the Nets like the Met, but it's okay.
yeah.
They were in Jersey back then, so my origin story really begins being around all of these NBA fans for so long. I was like, you know what? I need to find a team. And the
Mhm,
only way I knew how to do that was I was like, you know what? I kind of like watching March Madness. Like I enjoy watching the college aspect of it. So I was like, so let me find out where I'm gonna go. And it was the year, shout out, that Greg Oden is balling in college, but also Kevin Durant is balling in college too.
yeah,
And I was like, you know what? That's my guy. Like, no matter what, I'm pitching this tent. I have my KD rookie card still. It
oh,
is
nice.
sealed and fucking with two different tops now, super sealed.
Yeah,
So I was just a huge Texas Longhorns fan, and I wanted to see KD do well in the league. And of course, he got drafted to the Seattle Supersonics. So I remember the first 2 years everyone's just like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, this team sucks. Why are you a fan of C? You live in New York." Like, I was getting
yeah,
absolutely brutalized. So it was funny to think back too. It was like a lot of people don't know that he was on those teams with a lot of those big Sonics greats, right? Shout out the
yeah,
glove. He was
yeah,
on those teams. So
yeah,
a lot of people forget about that. So that's where kind of my fandom started. But then to be locked in now, to be a real fan of the NBA,
mhm,
obviously it was watching and growing with this team and seeing what we turned into, right? Because
mhm,
it took a couple of years of pain, right?
yeah,
But what really changed my fandom was obviously the move to OKC. I felt initially torn, right? Because I this is what I've come to enjoy.
yeah,
Um, but then after seeing the environment, right, and what they brought to the table versus Seattle, and this is no disrespect to Seattle. I think they have great fans, and I think if they were to get a team now, they'll be in a great spot. But
yeah,
there's something truly unique to being in a fan base that does not have anything in town but
yeah,
this. It's a
yeah,
real college environment, and
yeah, yeah,
to watch that was super inspiring, man. Shout out the big fundamental, right? This isn't his
yeah.
actual nickname, but shout out my guy Nick Collis.
Oh, yes.
Collison. I can't even
Nick
say his name.
Nick
That's
Collins,
how
yeah.
sacred he is to me. This motherfucker was a bench warmer and was one
Yeah.
of my favorite players. Like I was going
I
around
loved him
talking
too.
about Nick Collison.
Yeah,
Did you see Nick Collison highlights
yeah,
last night? Like that was me. So it's just funny to kind of look at back to see how it all developed, and then obviously the great divide, right? Being such a
right.
KD fan and to be there, right? To be through the dumps, to ride with the team through the dumps till we found ourselves to now we're contending for a title and
Yeah,
losing to the Heat, bro. That shit hurts so bad,
I
right?
know. I know.
And I was like, you know what? It's okay though because we're gonna be here every year. Like that's like that's how I felt. I'm like, bro, we got KD, we got Russ, we gonna be a
Yeah,
surge. Like we have to be here every year.
yeah,
And then the next year, we are up 3-2 against the Golden State Warriors, led by Clay and Steph. And I'm like, bro, we going to the finals again. And of course, we get fucking heartbroken at the last hour. Huge comeback by Golden State. I was gutted, but I remember feeling right after, like, you know what? This is fucking heartbreaking, but we're gonna learn from this, and we're only gonna get better. And then the world just fell apart, right?
yeah,
um, Seeing having this man leave town, um, it broke me, right? But this was a real moment in my fandom. I had to
yeah,
decide whether or not this was real to me anymore.
yeah,
And to
yeah,
be able to go from the reason why we're here to now, fuck that. I'm pitching this tent and staying locked in with my
yeah.
OKC Thunder when everyone left. Like I remember there was 2015, 2014. There was other Thunder fans at that point.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
after that, I had a second wave of being the only Thunder fan ever
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
my area, and I don't give a
Mhm.
fuck. I'm locked in. And
Yeah.
now to see where we're at now is super fulfilling, man. I think we both got lucky though, because if
Oh,
you
yeah, yeah,
can
yeah.
say anything about the two organizations we picked, it's that they actually go about it the right way, right?
The
We're
right way.
building this team from
Yep.
the ground up and then just getting as many assets as possible to fortify us, even if it's not for our team, but it's for our moves in 6 years.
Yeah.
Let's get as much picks as possible. And obviously, that motto has come to absolute insane heights where now you look at OKC and it's kind of like, man, we got all these picks and we got all these players. Like, we can't even play the motherfuckers that we have. Like, bro, Terrence Mann is a monster. This guy
Yeah.
will be starting on some teams and he's
Yeah.
barely playing for us. Case and
Yeah.
Wallace, you can argue six man of the year, Case and Wallace.
Mhm.
But, bro, these are people that barely get to play
Yeah.
because of how good the team is now. So,
Yeah.
I went long winded here, but shout out to OKC. It's been a
Ah.
wild ride, but I'm fucking locked in, baby.
Do you think that, when Kevin Durant retires, when it's all said and done, who do you see him retiring with? Do you think that it makes sense for him to retire with the Thunder or to retire with Golden State? Because you can make an argument for both.
I think it makes sense for him to retire with whatever six team he goes ring chasing with. Because at this point, you already burned enough bridges on the way out, like Jimmy Butthurt over here, which we'll get
Yeah.
to later. You already burned enough bridges on the way out that it's hard to
Yeah.
make that distinction. There was a couple of years around the Paul George years where I was like, you know what? I would welcome a KD return.
Yeah.
Now, fuck that shit. I don't want him on our roster at all. I love that our guys go after him too. I
Yeah.
love every
Yeah. Yeah.
second of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, fuck KD.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's a great feeling when you've gone through the trenches with a team to see success. And the crazy thing about your team is that you went through the build, got to the KD Westbrook years, right? That got broken up. Went through another build, got to the Paul George, Carmelo Anthony.
Hey, wait. Before that era, we had the. I want to make sure I'm saying this name right. Is it Kyle or Caleb?
Who?
The guy we traded Harden for. What is his name? I'm trying to remember.
No, who did y'all trade Harden for?
From Houston. How do I not remember this? OKC. This is crazy, bro.
God, I forgot.
Caleb Martin, I think is his name. I'm almost positive. Kevin Martin.
Oh,
There we go.
Kevin
Kevin
Martin. Yeah,
Martin. The
oh,
Kmart trade. That was an era
yes.
too.
I
So we
forgot
had
about
that
that.
era, and then we had the
Yeah.
post surge era too, which then
Yes.
turned into the CP3, Al
Yes.
Horford,
Yes.
Paul George era as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, but you went through dang, man, you went through a lot of eras in a short
Yeah.
period of time.
Shout
That's
out to
that's
OKC. I
crazy.
feel like the team turned over a lot,
It
but they
did.
were always in a good spot
Yeah,
relatively, you
but
know.
I mean, that's because they were getting those picks early.
Yeah.
And that Paul George trade to get SGA is like,
The
I don't
fleece
like,
of the century.
bro, like that's like that's Danny Ainge level thievery right there. That's insane. So like I love the Thunder. I told you before, I think we're gonna get that finals matchup.
You know what my favorite part about that trade was though, because this is a part that gets lost in translation too.
Mhm.
The talk about that trade wasn't even necessarily, oh man, it sucks that we got rid of SGA. Is oh now we have the opportunity to let Bones Highland start. You remember this?
Yeah.
That was the narrative. So to see how far we've come from
Hey,
there
who
is
he play for
amazing.
now?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Uh, the Guangdong Tigers. If I'm not
Hey man, I look, it's gonna it's trust me, it pays off.
sure.
It pays off. I truly do believe that the Thunder, with this roster, will find a way to be in contention for years to come. But I do believe you guys will get a championship out of this. I do believe that at some point you will get a championship out of this because there's no way you do all of these moves. It's no way you do all these and don't come out with one.
Hey, bro, as a Thunder fan, there's no way we had KD, James Harden, and Westbrook on the same team and didn't get a ring.
Okay,
So I'm
well,
nervous. Don't
but
get me wrong, but this is different.
looking back on it now, it makes sense.
That's true. That's true.
Like it
But
makes sense.
it does, but it doesn't too at the same time
Right,
because
right,
they
right,
were they were at the peak of who they were,
right.
which is crazy.
I don't
But
even
yeah,
think like
man,
Harden. I don't even think Harden had gotten close to his peak yet.
I
If
disagree. I disagree because
you don't, you
although
do?
he was such a great facilitator in the role he was in, that's what we needed him to do.
Oh
So
yeah, no,
him
no.
being able to be that slasher with us was perfect. But
I think
I
he was
agree. He
perfect.
unlocked himself with the Rockets.
Yeah, I think he was perfect for that role in on that team. But like to think about the type of scorer that he became leaving, which I was when y'all didn't sign him, I was dumbfounded. I ain't gonna lie. I remember driving, hearing that news, and I was like, they did what? Like I was literally getting off the exit, about to pull over because I was like, there's no way that I really just heard what I heard that James Harden was not staying in OKC because I was like,
Yeah,
there's
that
no,
trade was even looking back, we've made a lot of great trades.
yeah,
That was probably the worst one we made,
yeah,
and it didn't
yeah,
turn out the worst for us, but
yeah,
I remember even that Kevin Martin era and being like, "Bro, this is not the same.
yeah, yeah,
Literally, this is not the same, bro, at
yeah,
all."
yeah. No, I like, man, I have fond memories of the Thunder as well, and bro, I was playing with them in 2K a lot.
Yeah,
That,
no, I was gonna say, funny enough, I love that you mentioned that. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
yeah,
same exact thing. And this is not me being a homer because you're on the show, but my Eastern Conference team has always been Boston as well. And it's
yeah,
not because of anything different than your reason. I
yeah,
actually, just to make a long story short, I'm not trying to sell a sob story here, but
mm,
there was a period of my life where I was living in a shelter and
mhm,
I was able to get a gifted PS2 in the era where PS3s already came out, right? So I was way
okay,
behind the
okay,
world, but I
okay.
was I was living in a shelter and I was playing 2K8 from 2008.
Oh wow,
And like you said, Kobe,
yeah,
Kobe is the main focus, the main fixture, but they
yeah,
also the Celtics were huge that year as well. So
yeah,
that was
yeah. That was our,
imprinted
yeah,
in my brain. That's who I was playing with. So I'm like, you
yeah,
know what? Celtics, yeah, my Eastern Conference team. So that's why
yeah.
it's funny. We always giving each other love and shit. No
Yes,
matter
sir.
what, if y'all playing my Thunder, it's cutthroat. But
Hey, man, look,
that's
we
my
going
team on the
for it.
East.
We going for it, bro. And I'm telling you right now, I want to see that finals matchup. I believe we're going to get that this year. I believe we get the Celtics Thunder. I think if you're talking about pure basketball, like nothing else, if you're talking about pure basketball matchups, that's the one you want to see. It has everything that you want. And I believe SGA's stardom has taken them to a level where if you're looking at that team coming out of the West, there's not one person that can sit here and say, "Oh, but Jokic made more like would have been better." Like, no. No. The Thunder makes sense coming out of the West. And I know the Celtics have gone through their slump over the last month and a half or so. You know, when you win a championship, you're playing late into the year previous. So I expected a little slump this year.
And
But
banged up still. People act like that's not the case.
yeah, they're going to be perfectly fine. All they need is a break. That All-Star break is coming up. You get that break, kind of like, reset for a little bit, come back. I like the Celtics. They're likely not going to get a first seed. But guess what? I believe they still come out of the East. I think that's the matchup that makes the most sense. And for the basketball gods, I think that they would love to see that. So I'm excited, bro. I want to see Celtics Thunder matchup. That's gonna be a great run. And if we get that matchup, one of those games we're gonna have to stream live. One of those
Hell
games.
yeah. One of the early ones.
One of the early ones, yeah.
We both gonna be stressed as fuck, but that'll
One or
be
two. I'm good with that.
that'll be real fun. Now I gotta
Game
ask
one or
you
game two.
before we move on, what do you say right now, watching this team coming off of a title?
Mhm.
Obviously, right now you're saying they're slumping, but I mean this year as a whole, what do you
Yeah.
say brings you the most joy as a fan out of your Celtics?
Oh, this year, just seeing them get at it. I think I've always been a fan because early on in my fandom, it was nothing but sit here and figure out how to make like what moves are going to be made to improve the roster. So you're thinking about trying to figure out what to do to, what can actually be done and your dream scenarios and stuff like that. So sitting here in the position now where like, yeah, we are the champions and they're going through a little rough area. It's like what can you see from specific players games to fill in those moments. And I'm looking at individual guys come in and like how they're bought, like Peyton Pritchard off rip is to me, there's no doubt he's six man of the year. But I think when you're looking at how he plays and how much detail goes into his game, it makes me happy to see stuff like that happen, even in a slumping time, right? Like, because you're able to see, oh, okay, this is a spark. So there, I think anytime you see something like that, you're able to say, okay, like going into the playoffs, I can see this guy doing X, Y, Z. I can see this, that, and the other, And the fact that Porzingis is still trying to play into shape and balling out the way he is, I don't expect him to put up what he put up last year, and I don't expect the Celtics as a whole to do what they did last year. The idea that everybody thinks that they're going to blow everybody out, that's stupid. Like, but they look at their record, right? They're still there. Yeah, people act like they're a seventh seed. I, they're good. They're good. What brings me joy is seeing them figure it out. Right. I can see that they are figuring it out. I'd rather them struggle right now than March. I'd rather they go through a slump time right now than April. I don't want to see that in the playoffs. Why? Like, no. Figure it out right now. There's not many. They're not going to do anything by the trade deadline. They're not. They're not trading anybody. They don't have the ability to. Financially, they cannot do it. They're going to go into they're going to go way above the tax. What's it called? The luxury tax.
The apron, yeah, y'all
Yeah,
on
the apron.
second apron or some shit,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, they're going above that going into next year. So I think their salary is going to basically like double. Like I think totally they're going to like for the roster. I think it's like around like 200 million. They're going to be paying about 400 in tax. You know.
My question is, where the fuck does that money go?
Hey,
That's
bro.
my
You
question.
know. Yeah,
Who
I
the
don't
fuck
know.
is getting that luxury tax money? Because I need some of
Look,
that.
look, pay the fans, bro. Especially fans that have been a part of your team for years.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, break us off some of that. Like
for
that'd
real.
be
Why
great,
not?
but it's definitely going to the league.
I know, which is so fucking crazy to me.
It's
But
wild.
yeah, the incentives and all this shit. But
Yeah.
bro, I'm so excited. I gotta say, to give my answer for this question, honestly, I remember doing this show with you last year and the year before that, and me being like, our time is coming. But I didn't
Mhm.
think it was gonna be this quick. Like I remember 2 years ago being like, I see it,
You can
but
see
not
it.
yet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when we got the first seed last season, I was shocked. Honestly, I was really like, oh shit! Like we took a big step up this year.
Mhm.
And what I think brings me the most joy watching this team is just seeing all these guys grow up together. Like that's the
Yeah.
luxury of having, like you guys did, building your team through the draft in that way, seeing the culture. Like I feel like OKC's team culture, team vibe is so different from the majority of the league because of
Mhm,
how young these guys are.
mhm.
And I just love seeing obviously the post game interviews, right? The most
Those
recent
are
viral one,
hilarious.
yeah, the most recent viral one. They're like stacking towels on the interviewer as he's
Yeah,
talking.
that's
Um,
amazing.
just all those little moments, right? Where you see my favorite SGA, one of those is when he's like, everything I do is consistent. And then all you see is Jalen with J Dub, like, oh,
Yeah,
like the way they just support each other. And
yeah,
you could see they're genuinely out there having fun and just pulling for each other. And it's honestly rare to see that in the business age of the NBA. A lot
yeah,
of the time, these guys don't even like playing with each other. So to
yeah.
see that sort of camaraderie even between guys that aren't really playing, like the second J Dub, he's always in those interviews too. He's
Mhm.
getting a lot more minutes now, especially that Chet is out, but he's not a main fixture on our team, but he's
Yeah,
still a main part of our culture. Like everyone is super involved. And guys like Aaron Wiggins, like all of these guys legitimately could be six, seventh men starters on
mhm.
teams across the league. So to be able to have such potential, right? To be able to watch every game, you're seeing these guys break out. You're like, damn, we got to save some minutes for this guy too.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, we got a lot to look forward to the next couple of years. We're gonna be paying a little bit less than y'all somehow.
Oh, for a
but
while.
but yeah, eventually those contracts are gonna come around like you guys had them. So it's crazy, bro.
Yeah,
It's crazy. We live in a crazy world, but hopefully we both get a lot more chips to show for it. God damn it.
I expect it.
Hell yeah, me too. And next
So,
up, we move on to our headlines for the week. And right off the top, speaking of fleeces, speaking of Danny Ainge type moves, I got to shout out my guy Derrick for even reminding me that Danny Ainge is involved with the Mormons in Utah at all. I completely forgot about that.
yeah,
But this is a Danny Ainge move if we have ever seen one. Here are the details on this trade because it's very convoluted, very complicated.
yeah,
The Phoenix Suns are trading their 2031st, I repeat, 2031st. That is 7 years from now. That is 10-year-olds we're scouting for 2031.
yeah,
Their unprotected first is going to Utah for 3 first-round picks. Now, these picks are the least favorable picks of the 50,000 picks that Utah has. Utah is OKC light, by the way.
yeah,
These picks are the 2025 either Cleveland or Minnesota pick, and then the 2027 either Cleveland, Minnesota, or Utah pick. So whoever has the best pick out of those three teams, and then 2029 of Cleveland, Minnesota, and Utah once again. So kind of crazy to see how all these different trades work out. But I got to ask off the top, do you think that this is a good move for either team? Because as I'm looking at this, there's only one part of this that makes sense, right? There's only one part of this that is
mhm,
pointing towards anything. But hey, the Jazz came, I mean, the Suns came out today and said, hey, we're not making no trades for anybody.
yeah.
We're not doing nothing. So what do you think about this trade? Who is it favoring and what is it for?
So I actually think it favors both sides, right? I think that it's a good move for both. The Suns get something that they can flip. Utah does as well if they wanted to flip it. But Danny Ainge plays like 4D chess, man. Like I'm gonna be honest with you. Like there was a point in time where we were just getting so many picks in Boston. I'm like, bro, stop with the picks,
What are we gonna
stop.
do with
Like, yeah,
them?
yeah, we can't use all these. Like even like if you're talking about trades, okay, you got to package them like two or three. Like we got to get rid of some of these picks. We're not going to use them. So I think that's what Utah is going through right now. I think they're if I'm not mistaken, I think Walker Kessler is a player that's likely going to be on the move pretty soon. Excuse me. And I think if that happens, I don't even know his contract, but I would imagine Golden State might be a team that's looking at that. But I'm not even sure if what they're doing, to be honest with you. But I would that wouldn't be too bad of an idea for them because they definitely need help in the paint. But um For the Suns, it makes sense. For Utah, it makes sense because I don't think Utah is fully sold on their roster right now. So they're gonna definitely make some moves to bring someone in pretty soon. I could see something like that happening pretty soon. I don't know who though. Like whatever. It might not even be this year. It might be next year. But Phoenix, I'm so confused by Phoenix, bro, because like they didn't have to be in this position.
Yep.
Like I feel like they're doing stuff now to go get Jimmy Butler, right? But what's the purpose? Please tell me. You tell me. I'm not even asking a rhetorical question. What is the purpose of getting Jimmy Butler to Phoenix?
To fuck up all chemistry you guys have in 3 years.
Like
That's it.
what? Like because he doesn't make any sense. Just the same way that Bradley Beal didn't make any sense.
Yep.
And Bradley Beal is a less of a headache. And the possibility of him leaving or being traded somewhere else is a more likely thing to happen before the trade deadline. But you're getting rid of somebody that's not a headache to then bring in somebody potentially bring in somebody that is not only a headache but has been an organizational killer over the last couple of years. Every team that he's left has been almost demolished in a way in certain aspects when he departed. So I don't see where you win with making that switch. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think in terms of this trade though, for Phoenix it makes sense. For Utah it makes sense for the now. For the now, it does make sense. Um, but I don't know how anybody still trades with Danny Ainge. I don't get it. Shout out to him. I don't get
Yep.
it. I don't know what he's doing, but
It's almost like I know a lot of leagues like this, right? But you're in the fantasy league with a bunch of cousins. You got to call
yeah,
your cousin sometimes and be like, "Yo, just don't trade with him." Like I know
yeah,
he's trying. Like I know it might be fun. I know you're a fan of.
yeah.
Let me give you a random example. I know you're a fan of Christian McCaffrey, but don't trade him this year, right? He's
Right,
he's not
right.
playing. Like don't trade for him because there will be those people trying to fleece. That is Danny
Yeah,
Ainge. So I love that analogy. Yeah, man, this trade is hilarious to me because
it
it's
is.
so
Yeah,
obvious what it's for,
yeah.
and it's also dumb as fuck. Shout out. Like I think no matter what, obviously a 2031st pick logically it doesn't really make sense. Like, okay, go right ahead,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
And that's
just
the
look at the
lesser.
trajectory this team is on right now, right? So
Right.
you could imagine that 2031st pick being the first overall. Like I
Yeah,
can see it. So
yeah, yeah.
that'll obviously suck for them. And then obviously seeing the teams that these picks are coming from, they're gonna be not lottery picks. They're gonna be real late in the draft anyway. So
Yeah.
like you said, a wizard move and a move that in the grand scheme of things might not even matter to them this year. Because think about it. Well, technically, we own Utah's pick,
Mhm.
but it's top 10 protected. And obviously they're gonna be within the top 10. So
Yeah, yeah,
they're in a good spot. They don't even care about those picks anyway. So
yeah.
why not throw them away? So yeah, I think that it's a better move for the Jazz. I also think it's a good move for the Suns because it's clear what they're fucking trying to do. I don't know
Mhm.
how that will work salary wise though. Like they would have to trade Bradley Beal or something, right?
So what I saw is that it'll likely be a three-team trade.
Interesting.
Milwaukee, Miami, Phoenix. Bradley Beal
Wow.
Beal goes to Milwaukee, Butler goes to Phoenix. I don't know what goes to Miami or what or who goes to Miami, but that would be an interesting move. Like I
It
don't
would be.
know what the logistics would be, but yeah, they're Phoenix's salary cap. Like they can't do much.
Yeah. They
They
could
really
barely
can't.
even
They are
have a
top
roster coming
heavy.
into this season. Like they had to sign MLE guys.
Yes, but see, here's the thing. That's also why I don't see what sense it makes to trade for Jimmy Butler. his player option, like that, his player option, right? Next year, it's 50 million, if I'm not mistaken, or close to 50 million next year.
Yeah. You know what? If they find a way to make a Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and KD team work, right? Let's say those are the only four guys on the team, but let's say
Yeah,
they
that would
find
be
a
the
way to bring all those guys together to
48
play
minutes.
under. Bro, tell me that's not going to be the most elite 2K turn off the stamina though team, right? You just play the starters, turn off the stamina.
If you turn off the stamina,
Top one.
if you turn off the stamina, yeah, yeah. For 2K, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in real
in
life,
real
it's never
life,
gonna work.
man, in real life, I give it 20 games before Jimmy Butler and KD get into it.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, you're trying to
I don't,
bring together
I don't see it, bro.
cancer and HIV. Like, that's you can't bring both of those clearly communicable diseases. You cannot bring them that close within contact because they are gonna destroy themselves and then each other. So yeah,
Right.
that's gonna be fun.
I don't see it, man. I don't see it. And to be honest with you, if this goes through, if I'm Devin Booker, bro, I'm requesting it out.
Right? ASAP.
I'm
Ishbia.
requesting it out
Bro.
because what are y'all doing, bro? You're wasting the prime. You're wasting a prime year, like prime years of this man's career. Like you cannot do that.
You could
And
tell that this is just a rich dude running the team though, because he is clearly just hitting the slot machine. Right.
oh, let's see what happens, bro. I'm honestly like the front office got to go. They gotta go.
Yep.
Like, because there's nothing about these moves that make any sense, like remotely. 2 moves ago, they were fine.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know. They gotta figure something out. But Phoenix, man, that's something about to set out there, bro.
How dare you, bro? How dare you? This man's smooth as hell, bro. With all that being said, from one sunset clause to another, we've got the truth, which is shout out to Miami. Because Jimmy Butthurt, they said, bro, we're gonna find any reason to make sure we not paying you, first of all. So shout out to that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
how happy he was when he was able to play again. He's like, "Yo, I'm about to get paid, son." And then he pulled up with the Phoenix Sun colored sneakers. I know everyone saw that because clearly you
yeah,
can't miss it out. Um, he is the baby daddy showing up to his baby mother's next baby shower. Like
yeah.
he is that guy, 100%. Like you cannot tell me anything else. Yeah, Jimmy Butthurt. I don't know what the fuck happens from here on in, but all I know is I'm glad I'm an OKC fan because we would never touch this guy at this
No,
stage. Hell no.
nah.
Hell no. So,
Mm-mm.
whew, I feel
I
bad for
think,
whatever team he ends up on.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think one of the things that's obvious is that Miami. I think I think Miami has or at least Pat Riley has he's outlasted his prime in the front office. I think we're at the point now where it's like you need to give up the reins, bro.
Dude.
You need to give up the reins because whatever it is that you're doing is not working. And like they suspended him for missing the flight, right? And I feel like they're just finding reasons to suspend him at this point,
Yep.
which is cool. But like, yeah, like they gotta figure something out. This is not working. Getting Jimmy Butler down there to begin with, it was like, okay, who are you going to trade for to help him?
Yep. Because Bam's always been good, but you still need that,
You need someone
third
else.
piece. Yeah.
And you ain't got Kyle Lowry, bro. Like, and we're not even talking about like prime Lowry. We
Yeah, they
talking
got
about
BBL Lowry.
BBL. Like, no, 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 no. Pat Riley's got to go as bad as Jimmy Butler's got to go.
It's crazy, dude. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I think there is something to the idea that you just can't run an organization like that anymore, right?
Yeah,
It might have worked in the 90s. I just don't think it works anymore, but time will tell. I think ultimately, though, the Heat are in for a huge rebuild because all the guys that they thought were next up did not turn out to be that guy. So, yeah,
man.
it's gonna be tough in Miami, but hey, they got the ring a couple years ago, right? So it don't matter.
People, they didn't do anything after, bro. Like, there's no hope. There's no hope, bro. I think we can all see, we all saw when this was where this was going to go when they paid Duncan Robinson.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
everyone saw exactly where this was headed when they did that.
Yep. And then they were trying to find the next the great white hope, right?
Yeah,
Between
yeah.
Duncan Robinson and then what's the other dude's name?
Tyler Hero.
Yeah, there we go. He ain't no fucking
Yeah.
hero, I'll tell you that. So
No, no, he's a sidekick, and he's a sidekick for a reason. It's okay.
he ain't even Robin though. Like
No, 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 no. He's not. He's not.
he is Barnacle Boy from
Barnacle. Yes, yes. Yeah, nah. Like he's
all
cool.
right, let's move on from this before I get a fucking comment of someone trying to call me mermaid man. All right, we're gonna move on before I get that fucking comment, all right? And we move on to our side notes because we got multiple side notes to wrap up this NBA edition of the Sideline Guys. And this first one, holy shit, Nick Young, he off the perks again. Hold on, wait. What are you talking about, Nick Young? So I'm gonna read you this tweet word for word because honestly,
Oh
Derek,
boy,
when you sent it to me, it's something special, right?
it
Shout
is.
out, this kid is special. So this MVP race week in the NBA, a guy like Jason Tatum could double space for whatever reason, never win because they blowing teams out by 40 and double space can double space barely get his average because they not playing the fourth quarter and teams like OKC got to keep Shea in the game during a blowout to get his numbers. Space, dot, dot, dot. The epic space ellipses. Make the NBA great again. Space. If you give the MVP to Jokers, shout out Jokers, just because he got a triple dub last year and this year you give it to him for averaging a triple double. Westbrook, and he didn't even say triple double. He said for average a triple. Westbrook should have two or three. Maybe if he was a foreigner, he would have three. So there's so many angles we could go, right? To try to break down
Yeah.
this what would we say
Thought.
collection of words that
Yeah.
is somehow
Yeah.
um, a part of the English language. I'll start off here by saying my favorite part about this tweet is the community notes. Have you seen the community note? The
Nah,
community
man,
note
because I
is
barely read that tweet, man.
the community note is SGA has sat out 10 full fourth quarters this season already. Oh man, I love everything about this tweet.
Hey, man, look. Dang, bro. Nick, I honestly, the thought, the sentiment behind this rant, I
Oh, you
get.
found it. Enlighten us.
I Okay, so at least my interpretation is that
Real quick, keep that. This reminds me of those questions in like elementary school, right? We're still learning English here, where you got to find the argument, right? That's what this is. So go ahead, Derek.
I remember those days, man. Look, man, what I'm interpreting, what I'm hearing here, what I hear here is it's hard for to make a case for Tatum as MVP when he doesn't get to have the same average that he had last year or the year prior to with less playing time because of the fact that they can find themselves up big by the third quarter. There's been a lot of games where that's happened, especially last year. Last year, they like, oh my god, I forgot how many games it was that by the third quarter, into the third quarter, you already he was done. Like they set the whole starting five. Like, so I get the thought process behind that. My issue with this is that that's the argument for MVP. Why is it that your scoring has to be the catalyst for the argument to be MVP? Not what you average across the board most times, because obviously, like you said, Westbrook averaged a triple double. Like I get it. It's not the full picture. You don't get the full body of work. That's the full argument. So there's no context to it. So to me, I think that's what he's saying is that there are guys that, for whatever reason, will not get a nod or at least acknowledgement to be even in the top three of MVP voting. It's just based off of narrative and scoring. That is like, all jokes aside, that is sad. That is sad because it makes no sense. Because if you're actually talking about the MVP, it is, what is it that you're doing for the team, right? You have to answer a couple questions. What is it you're doing for the team? Where does your team sit? And how much do you improve your team? I think the plus minus is a good indicator. The point differential, right? I think those are good indicators for how important you are to your team, depending on your roster. But for the most part, I think it's a good indicator to say, hey, look, like this guy, like if he wasn't here, we would not be winning games. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a good indicator. So, and I think with SGA, with Jokic, and with Tatum, you can have those arguments for all three of them, and those are fine arguments right there. Like they're clearly, those are the guys on those teams that if they were not there, their teams are not in the positions that they are in. I think you can say that.
Definitely. And it's funny because this is a debate across all sports, right? Like, is it a
Yeah.
award? Is it a winning award? And I
Hmm.
think it's a fair mix of both. I think honestly, the NBA, I would argue, prior to the last 3 years,
Yeah.
has been known for getting this right. Like, this has been
Yeah.
the golden standard across sports until recently. So I
Yeah.
get why he's a little perturbed as well. But what I don't get is the Jokic hate. Like, hey, I get it, bro. Maybe you're trying to the point you was trying to make is the
Hmm.
team's success should be buoying this conversation, which I think is a great point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
goddamn, you didn't make it. But shout out to Jokic. I think the part that kills me about this tweet is that maybe if he was a foreigner, like that shit is ridiculous to me. There's no, in my opinion, there is no foreign agenda in the NBA. I think there's just a legitimate understanding of what entertainment is. If you can get a motherfucker that brings a whole nation with him, no matter what it is, you'll be stupid to not lean on that. The fucking Mavs did it with Dirk back in the day. This is
Hmm.
the shit that people like this. You'll be dumb if you didn't accentuate these aspects of your team. But the
I
narrative that he gets a different treatment because he's a foreigner is stupid as hell to me. But go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, no, I can see both arguments, right? Like I think the game we're seeing gets more of the European style, right? We're focused more on that style now. So I think that's part of it, but I also think that there's fatigue, right? Like Jokic getting MVP. Like if he were to get MVP again this year, like it's just like, come on, right? Like it's not to say that he wouldn't deserve it. I just think that there are people that want to see someone else win it. right? And SGA is Canadian, right? So I'm assuming he's correlating the two. Excuse me, European, Canadian.
That was the
Eh,
weird shit too. I feel like he was kind of throwing shade at OKC, saying, "Hey, but they got to leave him in so he could pad his stats. Now everyone want to make him the MVP." Like
yeah,
I think that was the point he was trying to make out.
I think that's the point. Yeah, I think so too. But I think like every team and every player are like on different teams find themselves in different situations. Like what Tatum's got going on in Boston is completely different than what SGA has going on in OKC, which is completely different than what Jokic has going on in Denver, right? Like, so like I think their situations are totally different. That they're so different that if you're going to make a case for MVP, you have to find a metric that they all meet at the same point, right? That's why I think the point differential plus minus, I think that and like seeding and stuff like that, I think those are very good indicators for like saying, okay, these guys should be in the conversation for MVP.
It's crazy, bro. I think ultimately you could argue all three of these guys got a good
You could.
standing in trying to say, "Hey, you deserve to be an MVP."
You could.
If I'm
Tatum
giving
ain't getting it
anyone
though.
to vote, yeah, no, I was gonna say if I'm
Yeah.
giving anyone to vote this year, it has to be SGA, and
It's
that's
gonna be
not me
SG,
being a
Yeah.
homer. Yeah, it's not me being a
Yeah.
homer. Just
Yeah.
got to look at the landscape, right? But I wouldn't be shocked if Jokic got it this year either.
I wouldn't either.
Um, Tatum
I'd be
deserves
really
it
shocked if
though.
Tatum
At
got it.
some point, Tatum deserves it. I would say firmly it should have been last year. But
Mhm.
that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
Do you
I
think
don't
that the idea of voters fatigue in the MVP race is, and we'll move on after this because we still have another side note, but do
there
you
you go.
think um, the idea of voters fatigue is something that should be looked at by the voters? Like, hey, we already have done this in the past, so maybe we shouldn't do it now? Or is that more so like a media narrative between fans?
I think it's something that I don't know that it should be taken into consideration, to be honest with you. And I'm one that like I will say I get fatigued of seeing certain players all the time. But
Yeah.
it's not because they win it. It's because the narrative that drives the win,
Yeah.
right? Because they'll and it's not even the person. It's honestly not even the player that annoys me. It's literally the media
Mhm.
because they drive a specific narrative that is what's the consideration for that instead of looking at what makes sense to name. Like to me, if Jokic wins MVP based off of what he's doing and where his team ends up, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. What I'm tired of is the narrative behind him all the time winning it, right? So it's like that's my whole thing, which is the reason why I prefer if the legends got a big say into who gets the awards.
Yeah.
I think we need to utilize them in that aspect because it makes sense, especially if you're talking about former players. Former players are going to have a different perspective than fans or media. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because you know what I think. You know who I think should have had the biggest say in this whole argument?
huh.
Nick Young's autocorrect. Next up, we got we got our final side note of the evening, and I'm excited to bring it to you because I think it also goes hand in hand with the discussion a little bit. So, Scottie Pippen was on a podcast, one of the many podcasts that are out there. But this is a Scottie Pippen quote that I'm concerned about, right? So I'm not necessarily leaning in to the show, but we leaning in to the quote. Scottie Pippen went on to say that to make a let me pull this up. Give me one second. Sorry. Excuse me, guys.
You get
So he says the NBA looks bad with the way Adam Silver is running it compared to the way David Stern ran it. And he
Mhm.
went on to say exactly, I think in the David Stern era, he ran the game. Now, Adam Silver is letting players run the game, and it's bad. Now, my favorite part about the clip, and to give some context here, is the interviewer after he said, "Now the league is run by the players." He goes, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Like that's a good thing, right?" And then he's like, "No." Immediately, Scottie Pippen is like, "No, it's not a good thing."
Yeah,
Um, so first of all, I'm going to start on this one by saying this is an interesting debate
yeah,
because players who played under David Stern back in the day felt like, once again, and this is not me trying to bring up racial tensions, but they felt like they were serving a master. So
yeah,
to
yeah,
hear them
yeah,
respond in this way now and try to find the reason why the NBA's ratings are down this year, because that's the only thing that makes sense with these discussions, in my
yeah,
opinion,
yeah,
is that shit, which there's a lot of reasons for that. Trust me, there's not a shortage of NBA fans. There's just a lot of them are streaming. Shout out.
yeah.
But Scotty dripping, no, snotty dripping, whatever the fuck this guy's name is at this point. I think his point here is centered around, obviously there's been big moves with the NBA Players Association, guys very near and dear to your heart, like Jalen Brown and others, are really on the forefront of advocating for players and what they need and what they want. And it is affecting the game. Now, this is a hot take according to the media, but I don't give a fuck. I think basketball is better than it's ever been. I think a
Mhm,
lot of people hate the outside game, but if we're
mhm.
being real, the sport as a whole evolves for a reason.
Yeah,
There is a lot to be said in MMA, right? Where people are like, man, I hate the calf kick, right? Because now people are just kicking each other in the fucking legs, and then nobody could walk at the end, and they're not fighting anymore, like the way we want to see them fight.
mhm.
And it's like, well, it's dominating the game because if you land it right enough times, you can make this motherfucker cripple. And
Yeah.
that's what three-pointers are in NBA. If
That's
if they
crazy.
hitting, you can take a team out of the game entire.
Mm.
The Celtics do
Yes,
this more than anyone.
yes, yes, yes.
So my long-winded answer here is no. I think Adam Silver is actually one of the most innovative owners in sports. Period. There's nobody doing things like he is with the NBA Cup, with all the other changes that are on the horizon.
Mhm.
Are all these changes good changes? I would say probably not, right? I think maybe there's some things that aren't hitting the way he wants them to, and some things that are going to get tweaked down the road, right? Especially the
Mm.
All-Star game and all the other things that come with it. But to make it seem like this era is so cooked because now the players are running shit is hilarious because that's what y'all wanted when y'all was playing, in theory.
Yeah,
Do I
yeah.
really think that's how the world operates too? No,
Mm.
because there's a lot of further ways the players could have made it about themselves. So yeah,
Yeah,
ultimately, I think this is a crazy ass take, but when you hear who it's coming from and that mentality, it makes sense.
makes sense. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think so. I don't think he's completely wrong because I can see how when if you're discussing the players, Adam Silver allowing players to have that full say. If you want to say that they've messed it up in certain regard doing that, okay. But to to make it seem as if Silver's reign as commissioner has been like trash, I can't agree with that, bro. I can't agree with that. I like what you said. I think there are things that he has hit on tremendously. There are other things he has missed. He's not going to be perfect. The thing I do like about him, though, is that he's willing to have the conversation and be held accountable for those decisions and figure out what to do. Now, one of the decisions that he's made that I absolutely hate, these courts for this NBA Cup, like my God, bro, like
I saw that one coming.
like let's do away with that. But I think there is a lot of innovation that has taken place, and be you can't be one of the leaders in sports, like your league, to be the dominating force that it is across the globe without innovation, right? You can't stay where you were under David Stern and expect to be a global game the way you want to be, right? We're eventually going to have an NBA league in Africa. That's where I could see them eventually going, right? Then could we see something where there's an NBA league, like an NBA Euro League? Can you, could we see something like that too? Now, is it a play that they're trying to do where it's like America, Africa, Europe, and then you see like who becomes like the team? Maybe that's gonna be a long season if you do that though, but I like I don't know. I think there's a lot of ideas that they're kind of like playing around with that would be interesting. It'd be nice to see, I think, f- if you want to talk about the game being involved, cool. I think there are certain things that could be checked in terms of like, your referees. Like you got to put them in check
Yeah.
because my God, to be honest, I don't think you can actually grow the league out having the referees do what they do on a nightly basis. Like it's egregious how they call the games a lot. Like I think if you want to make the regular season, you want to call the regular season one way, call it that way, and then the playoffs, you want to let things slide. Let that be known, but don't just like it really just depends on like the discretion of the referee type thing. Like
Depends on the night.
it
Yeah.
depends on the night.
Like, bro, that first Cleveland OKC game, the first one, not the one we lost, bro. That game was insane.
Bro.
Everyone's
I
getting fucking hacked, and it's fine. It's not a problem. This is
Right,
playoff basketball. Like, what the
right,
fuck, bro? It's
right.
fucking January.
Yeah. Like, I think that's the one thing I think they need to distinguish, and I think at some point they will work on that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I I can't sit here and piss on Silver's reign. I can't. He's been doing a lot of things for the league and for the game in general. Like, if we're extending the game out globally, you have to do some of the things that's being done, and I can applaud that. I can applaud that. I can appreciate that.
Yeah. And
But I mean, can you say that there are some things the players are getting away with that, like, like, yeah, some things that have happened, come on,
flops and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like, yeah. But
Yeah.
overall, the game's in a good
Nobody's
place.
perfect. We're all trying to get
Yeah,
our advantage out there. So,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I will say this: this has nothing to do with any of the talk we just had, but I think it has to do with Adam Silver's reign. I think he has one of the most iconic draft voices of all the commissioners.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
if there's anything this man is at the top of the commissioner game at, with the first pick, that
yeah,
motherfucker's elite with that shit.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that motherfucker's nice with it. But
Because man, look, what Mark Tatum, when he's the one that's
oh
calling,
my
I
god, that second round, turn it
I
off, bro.
I'm turning the TV off, bro. I'm like I'm either I'm mute I'll mute the TV or I'll turn it off. I'll watch Bleacher Report's broadcast. I'm not watching ESPN at that point. I'll watch the first round. Let me listen to Adam Silver, and then I'm gone.
Yeah, I love that, bro. I'm glad I'm not the only one on that because I thought
Yeah,
that was gonna be a weird ass take. Like I thought I was
nah,
gonna let that out. You'd be like, yo, I never thought of that.
I can't stand Mark Tatum, bro. Like at least not when he's calling the draft pick. Like he's a cool dude, but calling the picks, nah. I'll mute my TV. I'm good.
Yes, sir. Not gonna be able to do it. But yo, look at that. Guess who's not butthurt? These two guys right here, because we done
Yeah.
got through another episode of the Sideline Guys.
Yes, sir.
NBA editions are honestly the funnest at this time of the year because we did a whole hour 10 And we didn't even talk about the All-Star game that's coming up. We didn't even talk about all
We'll
those
get
different
to it.
things. So we got that for next week, right? We'll hold that for next week. Always a wild ride when I'm with my guy,
Yes,
Derrick
sir.
Myers. So on the way out, just remind the people where they can find you.
Yes, sir. You can follow me at Derrick underscore OTS. That's DERRICK. The black way to spell it.
Yes, sir. You will catch this man arguing with athletes, wrestlers, and anyone in between. You can find me at Negroni MMA on Twitter and the TikTok machine. Now that we're not banned, baby, we live. We going Sizzler.
Yeah.
So, guy, I might go fucking NPC this shit out.
Hey, man.
Thank you for the roses. You feel me? Why not? Fuck it at this point, bro. But thank you all for tuning in. We're going to make sure that we keep giving you the true takes, not the bot takes, the true,
Yes, sir.
thoughtful NBA insights. And we'll continue to do that. I can't wait to be back with you all discussing more NBA stuff next week. But just remember, right? The next time you're thinking hard, you're getting down on yourself, you're like, fuck, man. Our team is bad. It ain't looking good. It ain't getting better. And then you remember, like, damn, I'm a Washington Wizards fan. And then out of nowhere, it's like a That's So Raven moment, right? Like you zoom out, and then you like, the Commanders in the NFC Championship game, though. So it's all good. And guess what? They planting the flag for my guy Cooper, too. So, hey, maybe they're the laughing stock of the league now, but Washington just might get the laugh from that Jordan Poole. We'll see you all next week, motherfucker.